Estawani here. Today we will be starting our read with me for 15 minutes every single day. And with our theme for this month, The Journey to Significance, we will be exploring the book The Art of Work. So we are reading this book in depth and will be posted on our YouTube platform. All right, so if you love this, like and subscribe. If this is going to help you, please let me know in the comments. So let's get right into it. So, The Art of Work is by Jeff Goins, a proven path to discovering what you were meant to do. And we are going to read this for 15 minutes today. All right, so you find the praise for the work of art, what people have to say about the book, and all. All right, so we're just going to skip all of this. Reader's review, and then we are right into it. Okay, so this is the content, part 1, part 2, and then part 3. So let's begin with the author's note. What's happened to you is rare. My friend Mark said to me just before I made one of the most important decisions of my life. The decision to quit my job and become a full-time writer. My last day at work also happened to be my 30th birthday, which made it a milestone in many respects. The truth, though, is the day itself was less significant than the process it took to get there. When I asked how I got to this point, I struggled to give an intelligent answer. The experience of finding your calling can be both mysterious and practical. It takes effort, but also seems to happen to you at times. What I've come to understand is that finding your purpose is more of a path than a plan. It involves twists and turns that you never expected. Ultimately, these surprises lead you to your destiny. And once you arrive at what you thought was the destination, you realize it's only another leg in the journey. This book is a description of that path, as well as the steps it takes to navigate it. Everyone, it seems, is searching for a purpose, something to satisfy their deepest desires. I believe that something is a calling. What is a calling? You will hear me use the word interchangeably with the terms vocation and life's work. But quite simply, it's the reason you were born. When I began working on this project, I thought I knew what the process of pursuing a dream looked like. But what I found surprised me. Discovering your calling, it turns out, isn't quite so simple. The journey looks different for each person, but there are common themes that consistently emerge. If we look at those themes, we can identify a pattern that will help us understand our own vocations a little better. What if what happened to me wasn't so rare? What if everyone has a calling? That was the question that sent me on my journey. The people whose stories appear in this book, many of whom I personally interviewed, are not extraordinary in the sense that you've heard their stories before. They are not typical case studies for success, and that was intentional. In these seemingly ordinary accounts, I think we understand our own stories, which often feel far too ordinary for our liking, a little better. Some readers might be disappointed with the subjectivity of such a book, but this is the way we live our lives, not as research projects and book reports, but as anecdotes and emotions, and in each experience we find certain truth we might otherwise miss. My hope is these stories connect with you in ways that plain facts cannot, and in reading them, you too are changed. The Art of Work was not the book I intended to write, but ended up being the one I was supposed to write. A calling is like that too, I suppose. It is the thing that we never thought would be, the twist in the plot that makes everything else come together, and somehow in the end you cannot imagine otherwise. Writing this book illuminated my own understanding of how purpose and vocation work together, and I hope it does same for you. Wow, we have 5 minutes gone already. That's amazing. So let's go forward. Now we read the introduction. The cancer that couldn't stop a triathlete. Many are called, but few are chosen. A calling is not some carefully crafted plan. It's what's left when the plan goes horribly wrong. One June evening in 2000, Eric Miller skipped a company meeting to watch his 5-year-old son play T-ball. During the game, he and his wife Nancy noticed their little Garrett was having problems placing the ball on the tee and couldn't seem to balance properly. Concerned, they took him to the doctor who immediately ordered a CT scan. When the Millers were asked to wait in what the medical professionals call the quiet room, Eric knew something was wrong. As a nurse, he was well acquainted with the purpose of that room. It was where people went to receive bad, sometimes horrible news. The time was 6 in the evening. Okay, you can follow the arrow so that you don't get lost. By 11:30, Garrett was admitted to Children's Hospital in Denver, Colorado, and immediately sent into surgery. The next morning, on June 24, a golf ball-sized tumor was removed from the back of the 5-year-old boy's head. He was diagnosed with medulloblastoma, a word his dad says no child should ever have to know. After the surgery, Garrett was left blind, mute, and paralyzed. Put on a ventilator to help him breathe, he would have to learn how to walk, talk, and go to the bathroom all over again. Even if by some miracle he was able to do all that, he was still given only a 50% chance of surviving the next 5 years. The Millers began counting the days they had left with their son. One day, in the middle of the cancer treatment, while looking at his son, Eric thought about how the clock was running out on Garrett's life. In spite of the challenges facing his little boy and the worry this caused, he realized something. It was an epiphany of sorts. Working in the medical profession, an industry where the clock runs out on people all the time, Eric realized it was wrong. It wasn't just Garrett's life that could end at any second, it was all of theirs. There was no guarantee anyone in the Miller family would outlive Garrett. We needed to be living life all of the time, Eric told me, because none of us are guaranteed that we are going to be around an hour or two from now. Whatever time they had left, the Millers were going to live life to the fullest. After Garrett was moved out of the ICU and taken off the ventilator, his dad wondered if there was anyone out there who knew how he was feeling. Sitting in the window bay of the hospital, he prayed for an answer to the despair that threatened to destroy what little hope his family had left. So we are here. That was around the time he discovered the story of Matt King, an IBM engineer and world-renowned tandem cyclist who happened to be blind. That fall, Eric took his son to meet Matt King at a nearby cycling event, where Garrett got the chance to sit on a tandem bicycle and squeeze the handlebar with his hands, feeling the pedals beneath his feet. That was the day the light bulb came on for Garrett. After that, he was determined to ride again, which, unbeknownst to him or his dad, was the beginning of a process that would not only change their lives, but the lives of countless others. A few months later, Garrett told his mom he wanted to try riding his bike. She wasn't so sure, but he insisted. By then, some of its sight had returned and he was able to walk, albeit just a little. With his mother's help, Garrett mounted the old bike and began pedaling. At first, she ran with him as he pedaled clumsily. helping him balance, but soon his legs took him faster than she could run, and he escaped her grasp, if only for a moment to experience the freedom he had known before the cancer had taken control of his body. That same day, his dad brought home a brand new tandem bicycle so the two of them could ride together. 6 months later, on June 24th, 2001, after a year of radiation and chemotherapy, 6-year-old Garrett crossed the finish line of his first ever triathlon. His dad ran behind him, pushing his wheelchair. It was 1 year to the day after that first debilitating surgery. For the father and son duo that had endured so much, the race was a way of declaring to the world and perhaps to themselves that they would not let one little tumor stop them from continuing with their lives, from celebrating life itself. Thanks to the clinical treatment his parents had enrolled him in, Garrett's survival rate had now increased to 90%. That was 14 years ago. Since the first surgery that nearly crippled him so many years ago, Garrett has competed with his father in more than a dozen triathlons, as well as one on his own. His eyesight, though not fully restored, has returned to the point that he can see blurry objects and shapes. He is still considered legally blind, but can do things the doctors said were impossible. He is, without exaggeration, a walking miracle. This is not a book about miracles. It's a book about finding your calling, about how you discover what you were born to do. A calling is that thing you can't not do. An answer to the age old question, what should I do with my life? There are books that talk about how to find your dream job or what it takes to become an expert. This just isn't one of them. The Art of Work is a book about vocation, a word that has come to mean something very different from the original definition. The word vocation comes from the Latin vocare, which means to call. It was originally used in a religious sense, as in a call to the priesthood. And for centuries, people thought of it as just that, something reserved for an elite group of people, for those special few who were lucky enough to be called. But what if that isn't true? What if a calling is something everyone has? In this book, I'll try to recapture that ancient understanding of vocation as something more than a job. Through stories of everyday people, I will argue that much of what we think about calling, if we think about it at all, is wrong. The way to meaningful work doesn't always look like a carefully crafted plan. Sometimes the route to our purpose is a chaotic experience, and how we respond matters more than what happens to us. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we will begin from here tomorrow. So I'm just going to keep this on highlights so that we know where exactly we stop. So let me know in the comments what you think. How do you see this book? Are you finding it interesting already? So let me know. Okay, so I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we'll continue from here tomorrow. Take it easy, one step at a time. Let me know if you need the ebook, and it will be provided to you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and from this reading, I hope you understand your own journey in significance. Have an amazing day today. And if you find this really interesting, please share to others and let them be part of the challenge. Of course, if you do not want to read this book, you can also pick a book of your choice and join the 15 minutes a day challenge. Thank you.